Next, please join me in welcoming Jerry Traunfeld of Poppy Restaurant.
I'm Jerry Traunfeld. I'm the chef owner of Poppy Restaurant. So one of my goals in opening Poppy was to be able to cook my own food in a more accessible way. It's a very urban, vibrant neighborhood, and people get to enjoy very varied, vibrant flavors with wonderful Northwest ingredients. I couldn't imagine doing the food I do without growing my own herbs, so I begged my landlord to give me a little space in the parking lot out back. And so I built some raised beds, about 500 square feet of raised beds, and I raise all of the herbs that we use in the restaurant back here. I'm doing a dish that really speaks of the Northwest in my own cooking, and it's slow roasted salmon with a spring herb sauce. It's a very simple recipe that's great to do at home. So this is a dish in the late spring. That's when we get the most beautiful salmon into Seattle. And it's also when my herb garden is just like exploding. Everything is blooming, and we have all these tender herbs, and it's just a beautiful, simple dish to put them both together.
Well, I love it. So this is Copper River salmon that we're making tonight.
Right. This is the Copper River sockeye salmon, and it has little pin bones, right? You know what those are, and these are fish tweezers.
Which
right?
I personally own. I know a lot of people don't know about these, but they're so great because not only you'll see Jerry can do this really quickly, but it doesn't tear apart your salmon as you're trying to pull them out.
Right, so it's, you can feel there's a line of those little, they're called pin bones. They're very tiny little bones, but you really don't want to leave them in because it's kind of annoying.
A lot of people don't know when you're buying salmon, you want to get the thick piece like this. You know how there's that thin piece of tail? And that's the piece that's flipping around in the water so much, so it's tougher.
The first thing I'll do is I'll put them in this mixing bowl, and we're going to put a little bit of olive oil on them. And the olive oil sort of acts as a little marinade. I'm going to put it out on the sheet pan. So these go into the oven, and usually it takes, depends on the thickness of the fish, but usually it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we're going to start the sauce. So the sauce for this, it's called a spring herb sauce. What it is wine and butter sauce. So it's really like a French beurre blanc, but it's much lighter, and it has a thinner consistency, and at the very end, I stir in just a ton of herbs, and that kind of gives the sauce its body. So I'm just going to put it at a full boil, and while it's boiling, I'm going to get out this beautiful herb platter.
Play with your garden. Jerry has this gorgeous garden outside his restaurant.
So I just picked some this morning and brought them in. The first thing I'll get is the mint. That's probably one of the more familiar things on just spearmint. It's really easy. And every time help me pick them. So I'm just going to get like a little pile of the leaves that I'm going to coarsely chop, and then I'm going to set aside some of the really pretty tips or leaves to use as garnish. So there we go. This is fennel. So there's, the kind of fennel that you use for the vegetable that makes the bulb. And then there's a fennel that is the herb fennel, and there's green and bronze. This is the bronze. It has this beautiful color. And this is chervil. And chervil is an herb that's, I think, is really underutilized, but it has a flavor kind of like a cross between a very mild tarragon and parsley. Lovage, that's one of my favorites. Have you ever smelled that?
I have. It's like a celery leaf.
Right. It has a really strong celery-like flavor. Right now, I just want to chop the herbs. And I don't want to chop these too fine. I really think that kind of herbs keep their character better when they're not pulverized.
That's one of my tips actually for keeping things healthier is you add enough herbs, you get so many pops of flavor for virtually no calories. So you can use these in other applications too without butter.
But everything tastes better with butter. And so we actually want to add the butter while it's at a little simmer. And you can just add a few pieces at a time. As soon as the butter melts, I'm going to use this immersion blender. And these are nice because you don't have to pour it into another blender. You just stick it in the pan. So I'm going to tilt the pan so that it's fully submerged. And you can stand back. There we go.
It's a good way to get a little froth on there without going too crazy.
And then right before you're ready to serve, we'll stir in the herbs and just put it right in there. And that's what really kind of gives it a little extra body. And so you just have this nice light sauce. It's not like a heavy beurre blanc. It's a nice light herby sauce. And so when the fish is done, it's you'll see a little moisture coming out of the bottom, and the layers will just, when you press on it gently, they'll just kind of slide apart. And so we'll put a couple pieces on here. And I'll do 2 plates, and maybe I'll garnish one and you can garnish the other. How's that?
Sounds great.
All right. Just ladle the sauce around it. So what I do is I just kind of put the little herb sprigs around. So, I mean, they should just be kind of casual. So it's just like the wind blew and all the herb sprigs from my garden.
Yeah. This is how good you are.
That's what I want. But, it should just have this feeling of fresh from the herb garden and not too fussy.
And now it's too pretty to eat.
It's not too pretty. Never too pretty. So yeah, these are the finished dishes of slow roasted salmon with spring herb sauce.
That is seriously a work of art. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Oh, you're welcome.